You worked 40 hours. Exactly 40. They called it quiet quitting. They called you disengaged. You called it boundaries. They called a PIP meeting. The email arrived at 4:58 p.m. on a Friday. Subject line, Performance Improvement Discussion, Monday 9 a.m. You hadn't missed a deadline. You hadn't failed a project. You'd just stopped responding to Slack messages at 11 p.m. You'd stopped volunteering for weekend deployments. You'd stopped pretending that urgent meant sacrifice your life. You did your job. All of it. Every task in your job description. Every deliverable on time. Every metric hit. Every goal exceeded by exactly the amount required. Not 10% more. Not 120% effort. Just 100%. The number they agreed to pay you for. That's when they noticed you'd stopped being useful. The PIP wasn't about performance. It was about personality, lack of initiative, limited engagement. Not a team player. The document was 14 pages long. Your actual work output was mentioned on page 11. In a footnote, the real crime was listed on page 3. Consistently logs off at 5 p.m., rarely responds to after-hours communications, has declined optional weekend collaboration opportunities. Optional, that word was underlined, as if declining the optional was proof of something, as if boundaries were evidence of betrayal. You tried to explain. You worked 40 hours. That was the contract. That was the agreement. That was what they paid you for. They nodded. They took notes. They said they understood. Then they added defensive attitude to the document. You arguing for the contract became proof you'd violated it. The metrics didn't matter anymore. You'd hit every target. But you hadn't smiled enough in meetings. You hadn't brought enough energy. You hadn't performed enthusiasm during the third restructuring announcement. You'd committed the unforgivable sin. You'd stopped pretending work was your identity. They started tracking everything: arrival time, departure time, bathroom breaks, the number of sentences you contributed in meetings, the speed of your Slack response, the enthusiasm level in your emoji usage. You were working 40 hours. They were spending 40 hours documenting why that wasn't enough. The second PIP meeting introduced new expectations. Demonstrate passion, show commitment, prove cultural alignment. None of these things had units of measurement. None of these things could be quantified. All of these things meant work more without us having to pay you. You asked how to measure passion. They said you'd know it when you felt it. You asked how to demonstrate commitment. They said it should come naturally. You asked what cultural alignment looked like. They said if you had to ask, that was the problem. The trap was perfect. The expectations were impossible to define and therefore impossible to meet. You kept working 40 hours. Exactly. Every deliverable on time, every standard exceeded. You documented everything, time-stamped every task, recorded every outcome. None of it mattered, because the real metric was invisible. Willingness to dissolve yourself into the company, eagerness to erase the line between person and employee, enthusiasm for the erosion of your own boundaries. You wouldn't do it, so they started the process of erasing you instead. The third PIP meeting was shorter. Insufficient improvement. You'd hit every measurable goal, but you still left at 5 p.m. You still didn't answer emails at midnight. You still treated optional like it meant optional. They were terminating the PIP and your employment, effective immediately. You asked what you could have done differently. They said you could have shown more dedication. You pulled out your spreadsheet, 2,080 hours, exactly what they'd hired you for, exactly what they'd agreed to pay you for. They said it wasn't about the hours, it was about the attitude. You'd been quietly quitting. You'd been loudly working. They'd been quietly redefining the job until it consumed everything you were. The security guard walked you out at 3:47 p.m. You were still on the clock. They paid you through 5 p.m. Even they couldn't justify stealing those last 73 minutes. Your replacement started the following Monday. The job description was identical. 40 hours per week. Competitive salary. Work-life balance encouraged. They lasted 6 months. Then came their PIP meeting. The system doesn't want employees. It wants donors. People willing to give infinitely more than they're paid for. More time, more energy, more self, more life. When you stop donating, you become the problem. Not because you're failing, because you're succeeding at something they can't allow. Having boundaries, keeping yourself intact, remembering that a job is something you do, not something you are. They called it the 40-hour firing. HR training now includes it. How to identify employees who work exactly their contracted hours. How to document culture misalignment. How to terminate people for doing precisely what they were hired to do. The case studies are in the manual. The technique is being taught. The firing is legal. You worked 40 hours. That was your crime. Efficiency without erosion. Competence without sacrifice. Performance without self-destruction. You worked exactly what you were owed for. They fired you for not giving what they didn't pay for. The chair holds someone new now. They arrive at 7 a.m. They leave at 9 p.m. They answer emails at midnight. They haven't taken a sick day. They haven't taken a full weekend. They haven't taken a breath that wasn't scheduled. They're not quiet quitting. They're loudly dying. The company